Hello, everybody. Glad to have you back, and welcome to you if you're a new viewer to this channel. Please hit the thumbs up button to help my videos be seen on YouTube. That is the greatest thing that you can do to help this channel is hit that thumbs up button, and of course, please like and subscribe. Today we are looking at a fantastic game from the Tau Memorial in 2012. With the white pieces, we have former #2 in the world, Alexander Morozevich. And with the black pieces, we have the world's strongest amateur player, Luke McShane. This game is taken from the book that you see there on the screen by international master Arthur Vander Odewittering. Called Improve Your Chess Pattern Recognition. I've placed that book in the link below. It's a fantastic book on middle game patterns. This game that we're going to be looking at is taken from chapter 31. I have outlined it in red marker there, called the Nievergelt maneuver. Now, this is a maneuver that many of you, I'm sure, have seen at one point or another, especially if you play Sicilian defense, but you might not have known the origin of the name. Of course, there's a player named Nievergelt who played the white pieces against Paul Keres and achieved the winning position, but Paul Keres, being that sly fox that he is, was able to gain a draw. But this is a fantastic book, and as you can see, 40 chapters. I just took a little sample so you can see some of the subject matter, but it goes through all the typical middle game piece placements, you know, that you would encounter, just typical plans. For instance, part 4 says typical strategic means typical little plans and positions, and this is very helpful for the improving chess player. I've said in many videos, I often try to steer players, especially that starting out. If you're below 2200, there's really no need to like concentrate on openings. You should have heavy emphasis on tactics and just learning typical plans, because plans can arise out of many different openings. All right, you can have the same plan. You can have this plan in the Sicilian with using the black pieces. You can have this plan using the white pieces. You can have this plan coming out of the Nimzo Larson attack, King's Indian attack, Stonewall. And so what's good about knowing a plan or pattern is that it can be useful in all different types of openings, right? You don't have to wait for your opponent or hope that your opponent plays Sicilian in order for you to be able to use the plan. All right, so we're gonna get right into this game. And this game again took place in 2012 at the Tau Memorial. It's a very strong tournament. You had you know, the top players at the time playing in 2012. I forgot who won this particular tournament. I want to say Magnus Carlsen came out on top here. But let's get right into it. So Morozevich had the white pieces. He played d4, d5 from McShane, c4, c6. McShane plays a Slav, knight of 3, knight of 6, knight c3, and a6. This variation of the Slav was popular at the time. I want to say from like 2007 to like 2012, 2013. This A6 Slav variation. All right, E3, B5, forcing white to make a choice as to how he's going to defend the center, or is he going to advance the C pawn. Bishop G4. H3, McShane parts with the bishop here, no problem. G takes F3, knight BD7, bishop G2, by Morozevich E6, bishop D2, bishop E7, and then F4. So now what we have here is a situation where black has a superior pawn structure, but white has pawn preponderance in the center, and also has the 2 bishops. So this position is taking on the flavor of a stonewall attack, right, with the white pieces, which with the pawn complex of d4, e3, and f4. All right, so white plan seems pretty straightforward. To attack on the king side, utilize the open g file for his attacking prospects. All right, both players castle. Even right here at this point, I'm already thinking that white should consider closing down the queen side with the move c5, excuse me, because it seems to me that white already has a nice opportunity on the king side to attack, utilizing the g file, scooting the king over to say h1 or h2, moving the bishop on g2 to say f3, maybe e2 and d3 at some point, moving the rooks to the g file, moving the queen to e2 or something like that, and attacking over there. And therefore, black's counterplay might consist some time in exchanging on c4. So I think white should commit early and play this move c5, right? And let's say play could continue queen c7, right? Queen c2, connecting the rooks, a5, knight e2, so that when the pawns are pushed on the queen side, white can just lock up the queen side. d8, a4, and let's say b4, for example. All right. Play continued. Castles, castles. And now here McShane opened up the queen side. B takes c4, B takes c4. And now knight b6 from McShane. So he gains a little initiative here by attacking the c pawn. c5 is played, and now knight c4, hopping right into that weak square. And it's very hard to get that knight out now. All right. Now the argument may be made that, hey, the knight is kind of offside, and maybe this is what Morozevich was thinking also. Hey, the knight is kind of offside, and so yes, he's deep in the position, but he's not going to be really a factor in this game too much. And at some point, perhaps Morozevich can play bishop f1 and exchange the knight off on c4, or drive the knight away by maneuvering his knight on c3 at some point. But still, it's kind of annoying having the knight sitting there on c4 like that. Morozevich preserves the bishop with bishop e1. Interesting enough, that bishop on e1 is pretty ugly, pretty bad, locked behind the pawn chain, as you see in many stonewalls. King h8. This, my friends, is the beginning of the maneuver I mentioned earlier, the Nievergelt maneuver. And again, if you look on the picture there, you can see I've highlighted that particular chapter in red. This is just one of about 7 or 8 games. So the author doesn't just give you one example and move on to the next chapter. There's several games. I'm just going over one just to highlight this particular maneuver. But there's games by Fischer, Bobby Fischer, a really nice game between Taimanov and Artur Yusupov. There's the STEM game, of course, Nievergelt Keres. So there's about 10 games, I believe, just on this maneuver alone. And it happens with colors reversed. So it's, again, and in different openings. And that's what's great. Once you understand this maneuver, you'll see the opportunity arise from different openings and colors reversed, which is fantastic, right, as far as its usefulness. And the general idea is basically that when white or black has a hook, so to speak, right? For instance, this pawn on f4 is like a lever. The pawn on h3 is a lever for black in this case to be able to open up the position. So you want to advance your g pawn and play either g takes f4 or advance your g pawn to g4 and play g takes h3, and you want to maneuver your rooks over to the king side. You'll see this in the Sicilian also. So you're black in the Sicilian, and white has erected the that English attack pawn chain when he plays f3, and sometimes the queen will say be on c7, and the same maneuver where the rook will come to the king will go over to h8, the rook will go to g8, and the pawn will go g5, g4, and rip open the king side, and then you'll have the queen on c7 and say the bishop will be on d6, creating a lot of pressure on the black position. All right. So this is the general plan here for black. Knight e2, rook g8 by McShane, knight g3, and g5. Queen f3 by Morozevich, and g4 by McShane. So now the position is forced open. He could have captured also on f4, but g4, h takes g4, knight takes g4, and now rook c1. And here Morozevich is planning on some type of exchange sacrifice. Rook takes c4, d takes c4, and possibly queen takes c4 at some time. Sorry, c6. So queen f8. And Morozevich has to be careful, because now that the h file is open, he has to watch for these type of maneuvers. For instance, queen here, already threatening mate on h2. Bishop h3, threatening to win the piece, of course. Knight goes back to f6, and now king h2. All right. McShane takes over the open file. And now Morozevich plays e4, typical Stonewall fashion. And now this is a critical moment in the position, because if Morozevich can play the move e5 right here, driving the knight away, and then follow up with say f5, he's in the driver's seat. He's in a great position here. So this is a critical moment in the game here. Black cannot allow this plan e4, e5, and then following up, allowing white to follow up with f5 with a great position. All right. So what does black do? All right. If he captures the e pawn, the knight on c4 is undermined. All right. So McShane finds a fantastic idea, and he just gives up the exchange. Rook takes g3. Very strong move. Very strong move, and I'm sure caught Morozevich by surprise. F takes g3 was played. If queen takes g3, then knight takes e4, hitting the queen, and there's really no good square for the queen to go, right? So for example, if queen g2, queen h6, again using the g file against white, and also attacking the f4 pawn, right? That's unprotected. If queen f3, then knight ed2, and you can see the fork of the f1 rook and the queen. And this is a good position for black also. Rook b4 with additional pressure, okay, against the d pawn, forcing white to be passive. And this is a great position for black. So as you can see, there's really no adequate square for white to go to. Let's see, where else? Queen f3. We looked at that already. Let me see. Queen d3. Again, highlighting the weakness of the double pawns. Therefore, Morozevich took with the pawn and played f takes g3. McShane took with the pawn, gaining time on the queen. Although he compromises his pawn structure somewhat, right, and undermines his knight on c4, he has seen that he is going to place his knight on the great square on d5 and practically, have an unassailable position there. Knight is going to be well posted there. So queen c3, and now knight b2. Again, very strong because now the knight is going to improve his position. So the knight wasn't too good on c4. Right, it looks good on paper, but wasn't doing too much. Now, this idea of this knight going to d3 is, very annoying for white. So rook b1. And first things first, knight d5. Hitting the queen, queen to d2. And then the knight just hops back into c4. Rook takes b8, queen takes b8, queen e2. And now the knight goes to e3. So this is not something that Morozevich wants. Right? Tempo against the rook. And you can see that the exchange sacrifice was well worth it. Right? In this position with so many closed files, right? The rooks aren't as valuable. The only open file you can see here is the b file. All right, so the rooks don't really have an opportunity to shine here. You know what this is a good position for? This is a position conducive to knights. So McShane has the correct pieces for this particular position, right? The position is kind of bogged down, murky, blocked, right? White has the two bishops, but really, without open diagonals, without open files, these pieces can't shine. So Philidor was right when he said pawns are the soul of chess. Okay, because the pieces value, right, is very dependent on the pawn structure. And in this particular pawn structure, it's not the bishops or the rooks that are the most valuable, it's the knights. And guess who has a pair of knights? That is black. And they're beautifully placed in the position. All white can do is try to change the position, right? And the pawn structure, or somehow, and get his pieces on those diagonals and files. So for instance, he would love to take over the b file with his rook, or even utilize the h file, right? The h file is open, but look, his king is on h2 and his bishop is on h3. So those pieces aren't well coordinated. And what about the bishop on e1, right? Behind all those dark squares, right? Not too good. If we can wave a magic wand for white, we will take the e1 bishop and put it on e5, right? Of course, we have the king in check and would win the queen there, but we would like to put it on e5 if we could. We would take that rook on h1, maybe put it on b1, or perhaps keep the rook on b1 and just move the king to safety, right? Say like g1, and we would take that light square bishop on h3 and I don't know, move it to h5 maybe, or b3. It's very hard to place that bishop. So you can see the problems that white faces in the position. And obviously, black's position is much easier to play. So after rook h1, simple play by black ensues. Bishop f6. What does bishop f6 do? It simply just attacks this pawn right here. So bishop g2, trying to clear up the h file for the rook, and of course attacks the e4 pawn here. All right, so you can see bishop takes d4. Okay, and of course, listen, Morozevich wants to line up on the h file, checkmate, and checkmate black here. Right? So in this position, Morozevich drops the pawn, and you can see the C pawn is also on Pre's here. So Morozevich doesn't want to fall too far behind the material, and he grabs the pawn on e4. Alright, but as you can see here, White's king is right on the same diagonal, right diagonal opposition here with the queen. You can see I've highlighted that the bishop on e4 is unprotected, right? And the knights are beautifully placed. So I've basically highlighted black's next move for you here. Knight takes f4. Morozevich might have overlooked this move. G takes f4, queen takes f4, and Morozevich's position starts to crumble rapidly here. Queen takes f4 check, bishop g3, queen takes e4, getting the investment return immediately. Rook e1, and queen f5 is played here. F5 is good. Black is winning here. F5 with the idea of f4. Right, solidifying this knight, just taking more space in the position. I just want to go back, because what could Morozevich have done instead of bishop takes e4? Not too much. He's worse. Maybe bishop h3 or something like that. But basically, he had to make a move whereby he wasn't just giving up a piece. Right, so perhaps queen b5, because black can go into this endgame. All right, so bishop h3. Another idea is just king h3. Like, what are you gonna do? King h2, f5 again. The same type of idea, hitting the c5 pawn, and black just starts dropping material. I'm sorry, white starts dropping material. So bishop takes e4 was played. Combination ensued. Rook e1, queen f5. Like I said, f5 is probably it's a little stronger, but it's okay. Knight g4 check. Again, another very strong move is e5, just basically cutting off the coordination of the bishop on d6 in the king, and preparing queen f4 check. Notice how Morozevich, even though he's in trouble, he still tries to improve his pieces. Right, he plays bishop d6, but here it's too late. Knight g4, king g2, knight e3, king h2, e5. So there's the idea, cutting off the bishop and king coordination. Rook g1. So, right, they say better late than never, but there's no difference. It really makes no difference in this game. Queen f4 check, king h3, and queen h6. Morozevich resigns. All right, the reason why he resigned here is because after queen h6, king g3, which is forced, and this knight f5 here, and the king is walking into doom. Queen f4 check, king h3, queen h4, queen g3, king f1, and then just mate. All right, so it's going to be mate or just losing a lot of material. And so that was all that she wrote. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I suggest, and I definitely highly recommend this book. It's a fantastic book. And like I said, the author, international master, put a lot of work into this book, breaking down theme by theme. It reminds me of the game by the famous books by Pogard. One is called Chess and one is called Middle Games, where they have hundreds of common middle game positions, and you have to solve the position and have the solution in the back. The difference here is, for me at least, is that in those games there's in the chess and middle games books, they're huge tomes, very thick. There's no explanation, right? You just kind of have to find the tactics on your own and kind of like develop your own understanding, which is great too. Here in this book, everything is explained. So you actually have almost like a coach, like explaining, okay, why the maneuver works here. You know, the idea. And there's tactical exercises at the end of each section. So this book to me is one of the best books that I've seen on the topic, in that it really encourages you to develop your own understanding, but the explanations are clear and lucid. And there's not a lot of computer analysis, and a lot of lines in theory, because it's really about ideas and concepts. And to me, the greatest thing is that you can um, use the ideas with either color and across various openings. It's not really about the specific opening, because amateurs, beginning players or below master get caught into studying openings. They lose a game and they blame it on the opening. No, it's not the opening. It's because you're weak. You tactically weak, so you're not seeing the tactics. A grandmaster, a really strong master, can play any opening against. Like if you're, say for instance, you're 1600 and you play against a master that's 2200, right? For example, that master can play basically any opening that he or she wants against you, and is going to win most of those games. Probably 19 out of 20 games. They might get tired and drop a game, right? Just think, if you play, I'll use the extreme example. If you play Hikaru Nakamura, he could play any opening against you pretty much, and he's going to win and give you time odds, right? Say you're a D4 player. He could play, I'm trying to think of something that's kind of unsound. E5, right? You play D4, he plays 1 E5. You guys play 10 games. He's going to smoke you 10 games out of 10. And in any time control. I'm not even saying blitz. It'll be long time control, because he's just tactically stronger, right? You gotta make little mistakes until it adds up, and then he's gonna be equal, and then he's gonna turn the game and win, and you gotta be like, man, how come I keep losing against this unsound opening? It's not about the opening at this level. It's about tactics and understanding, and this is going to help you on your way to understanding, is recognizing these patterns and motifs, right, that you can use over and over and over again, regardless of the opening. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Please get in that comment section, let me know what you think. Also, again, I'm on Lee Chess, same name as here, Chess Audiobooks. I'm also on chess.com, Instagram, and Twitter. So follow me there, and I'll be glad to play you guys in the game. And I hope you enjoyed. And maybe I'll show a few other games from this book if you like to see more. But getting those links below, the book is there, and also a couple of other DVDs and videos. And I'll see you guys on the next video.